Hello and welcome back to the vlog. This is vlog 6 of Social Studies, and believe it or not, we are done with chapter 1 of our social studies books. Awesome job getting through it. Hopefully this is a much better option than just sitting down and reading the book and writing the answers in the side of your book. But this vlog is going to be all about reviewing chapter 1. After this vlog, you're going to take a short quiz on chapter 1. But if you listen to this whole vlog and stay to the end, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on how to do much better in that vlog. Alright, so let's start with, before we even started lesson 1 of chapter 1, we talked about maps because I believe maps are super important for us to know how to use. Not only do they help us get around directions, but they also give us information about a place. And what I mean by that is, like, a map might show you what type of people live there, where they come from. Another map might show you where COVID is spreading. Another map might tell you what kind of ice cream that certain place likes. Or if you remember right, what you call those little bugs that roll up into a ball. You guys had a name, roly-polies. Where I was from, we didn't call them anything except for bugs. So, maps are super important. And every map, not every map, but most maps have 5 things that make them a map. The first and most important is a title. You have to know what the map is about. The second one is a key or a legend. It tells us what the symbols mean. After that, you're going to have directions on them. A scale, which tells you how big the map, or how far you go on a map and how it relates to the real world. And the last one is grid lines. And remember, grid lines are like those things that, like, if you ever play Battleship, you might say B1, and it just helps you find a spot a lot quicker on a map. I know we didn't talk about it a lot the first time, but they are important. So, maps are awesome. Know how to use them, love them, because you're going to be using them for the rest of your life. Alright, then we started into lesson 1, and lesson 1 was all about Indiana and its land and water. Mostly how it was developed, or how the land formed, and how our water helped shape that. So if you remember right, I said that Indiana, especially the top 2/3, was shaped by glaciers. They kind of came and roughed and smoothed out these big hills as they slowly moved along and left flat land with really rich soil, because it crumbled up all those nutrients and left really rich soil that's great for farming. Down here where we live, the glaciers didn't get to as much, so we have some big rolling hills that aren't as flat, and the soil's not as great for farming. It's okay, but not as great. Also remember that we talked about land forms, so like different types of land that we have. We talked about hills, forests, flat plains, sand dunes, beaches. Those all formed the lithosphere. The lithosphere was all the land mass that was on Earth. After that, we talked about the hydrosphere, or all the water that's on Earth, and specifically what we have here in Indiana. So what we have here in Indiana is we have a ton of lakes and rivers. We even have one of the biggest lakes in the world, Lake Michigan, that touches it. And the lithosphere, or sorry, not lithosphere, the hydrosphere uses a cycle that helps water move throughout it. This cycle was called the hydraulic cycle. Remember, hydro means water. So hydrosphere, hydraulic cycle. The hydraulic cycle talk about how we had evaporation that turned the water into gas that goes up to the clouds. It starts to condensate up in the clouds, and then it definitely comes down from the clouds as precipitation, as rain or snow. Definitely not from a hose. If you think it comes from a hose, I don't know where you got that idea from. But that's part of how water and stuff moves throughout Indiana. Lastly, you guys looked up biosphere. So biosphere is all the plants and animals that live within a certain area. So the biosphere of Indiana is very different than the biosphere of the Arctic. You guys did amazing on your drawings of your favorite Indiana biosphere, so props to you guys on that. Lesson 2 in chapter 1, we talked about the regions of Indiana. We broke Indiana, which is kind of tall and like a sock, we broke it up into 3 different spots. Our top spot was called the Northern Lakes and Moraines. Sorry, I can never say that word. This is like, it's up near the Great Lake of Michigan, where it touches the beach there, and it has a lot of little lakes and deposits left over from the glaciers. This area has a lot of coal, and they had some big businesses by the Great Lakes, because if you're by the Great Lakes, you can put your goods on a boat and they can ship anywhere around the world because they connect all the way around the world. Next, we have the Central Till Plain. This is the really flat part that if you ever had to drive to like Chicago or up to Michigan somewhere that's really flat and people say it's really boring. But what's really cool about this place is it has some of the richest farm soil in the world there. So we have some amazing farms in Indiana that really drive a big part of lives for people in Indiana. It's also where our capital is located. Our capital of Indianapolis is located in the Central Till Plains, where it's nice and flat. And a lot of businesses settled in Indiana because they had a large natural gas there. And even though the natural gas is mostly used up, a lot of those companies stayed. So we have a lot of car manufacturers. We have a lot of like Amazon. It's just a central place that works really well for companies to be in. Lastly, we have the Southern Lowlands, and that's where B-Town, whoop whoop, is located. So the Central Lowlands are rolling hills. We have, it's not as flat. We don't have as many farms. But what we do have is some amazing limestone quarries where they dig a big pit, and then they carve out the limestone and they ship it all over the world. It's also the home of IU, where we get to have many people from around the country, around the world even, come and share their ideas here. Lastly, we talked about climate versus weather in lesson 2. And weather, we said, that was what is happening today. So if you can look around today, the weather today is that it's a little bit cool and it's overcast or cloudy. And that's different from climate, because climate is long term. So in the summer here in Indiana, the climate is usually pretty warm. And in the winter, the climate is what I would call mild. We get some snow, but it's not hot like Arizona or really cold like Minnesota or Canada. So it's a very temperate weather. Moving on to lesson 3, we talked about trade. We talked about the benefits of trade and how sometimes Indiana has things that we can make and use from our natural resources, and we can ship those to other people, but we still need some things that we can't make here, and they ship it to us here. So like bananas is like a perfect example. I know a lot of people that eat bananas every day, but bananas don't grow naturally here in Indiana. So what does grow here is we might take corn and ship it to Brazil, and the Brazil might ship bananas back to us. So we both get something that we need from each other, and it helps both sides. When we talked about trade, we talked about how Indiana also trades with the entire world. So same with bananas. We talked about how Indiana doesn't just trade with states, but also other countries all around the world. We do this in Indiana's, some of our biggest exports, we'll get to what that means again in a second, but some of Indiana's biggest exports come from our manufacturing. Manufacturing just means it's how we make our goods. So Indiana, like I showed with my car, we make a ton of automobiles in here. We also have some pharmaceutical or medicine products, and we also have some big farm equipment that we ship all over the world. Those are just some of the things that we ship all over. And remember, again, we export. Exports are goods that we ship to other places that we make and then sell to someone else. And imports, it's kind of like in, but it's im. Imports are what we take in from other countries, what we buy from other countries and use for us. Last week, we talked about cultural exchange. And this one is a big one to me because I love learning about other people's cultures and where they come from. If you ask my neighbors, some of them are from Germany, I ask them questions all the time about what it was like in their homeland of Germany and how it's different from us. And I love eating their food and just learning about them as a people from Germany and comparing to how I have lived my whole life. So hopefully you remember that. And cultural exchange is where we exchange our goods and our ideas, not goods, our ideas with another country. And I had said earlier that having cultural exchange kind of helps us understand other countries, and we're not scared of them and we don't have to fear them then, or just other people. And knowing as many people and different cultures as you can makes you a big and rounded person. So that was a really quick, but still about 11 minutes long, review on what we did for Chapter 1. So hopefully you stayed to the end and I can give you some tips and tricks on how to do well on the quiz. So tip 1, you already did it. Watch the video. A lot of the stuff that's going to be in the quiz I covered in the video or the other videos. Tip 2 is, while you're taking the quiz, you can use your book. At the very bottom of the question, if you look down a little bit, I'm going to say the page number that the information can be found on. I'm not going to tell you where. You're going to have to read the page to find out. But every answer, you can look up the page, so you can try to go for that 100%. Those are the 2 tips I want you to do while you do this review. And that will, after this review, that will wrap up Chapter 1. So when I see you in the next vlog, we will be starting Chapter 2. Until then, peace.